Imagine a world where forests whisper secrets, where cats ride buses, and where a young girl can save her parents by working in a bathhouse for spirits. These are the worlds of Hayao Miyazaki, a man who turned his pain into poetry, his struggles into stories, and his dreams into some of the most beloved films of all time. But behind the magic of Studio Ghibli lies a life marked by war, illness, and an unshakable belief in the power of imagination. This is the story of Hayao Miyazaki, not just as an artist, but as a boy, a dreamer, and a fighter. Hayao Miyazaki was born on January 5th, 1941 in Tokyo, Japan, but his childhood was anything but peaceful. The world was at war, and by the time he was 3 years old, American bombers were raining fire on his city. Miyazaki's family fled to the countryside, but the scars of war stayed with him. He remembered the sound of bombs falling, the smell of smoke, and the sight of his father's factory, where they built parts for fighter planes, standing as a reminder of the destruction humans could create. But war wasn't the only battle young Miyazaki faced. His mother, Yoshiko, was diagnosed with spinal tuberculosis when he was just a boy. For nearly a decade, she was bedridden, and Miyazaki spent much of his childhood visiting her in the hospital. Her strength and fiery spirit left a deep impression on him. She was a woman who refused to be defeated, even by illness, a trait that would later define many of Miyazaki's heroines, from the fearless Princess Mononoke to the determined Kiki. And then there was Miyazaki himself. As a child, he was told he wouldn't live past the age of 20 due to digestive problems. He felt weak, clumsy, and out of place, but in the quiet moments, he found solace in drawing. He sketched planes, tanks, and battleships, anything that could take him away from the pain of his reality. Little did he know, these early sketches were the first steps toward a legacy that would change animation forever. Miyazaki loved to draw, but there was one problem: he couldn't draw people. "I was terrible at it," he later admitted. Instead, he focused on what he loved: planes, tanks, and machines. He devoured manga, copying the works of legends like Osamu Tezuka, but he always felt like an imposter. "I was just mimicking others," he said. It wasn't until he saw Panda and the Magic Serpent, Japan's first color anime, that he realized what he wanted to do: create worlds that felt alive. In college, Miyazaki studied political science and economics, but his heart was elsewhere. He joined the Children's Literature Club, where he discovered European fairy tales and Japanese folklore. These stories became the foundation of his future worlds, places where magic and reality intertwined, where ordinary children could become heroes. In 1963, Miyazaki got his first job at Toei Animation. He started as an in-betweener, drawing the filler frames between key animations. It was tedious work, but Miyazaki was determined to learn. He met Isao Takahata, a director who would become his lifelong collaborator, and together they created The Great Adventure of Horus, Prince of the Sun, a film that revolutionized anime. It was bold, emotional, and unlike anything Japan had seen before. But Miyazaki's journey wasn't without struggle. He often felt like an outsider, battling self-doubt and the pressure to conform. Yet, through it all, he kept drawing. He married Akemi Ota, a fellow animator, and together they built a life rooted in creativity and resilience. In 1984, Miyazaki released Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, a post-apocalyptic epic that he wrote, directed, and hand-drew as a 1,000-page manga first. Its success led to the founding of Studio Ghibli in 1985. The name, inspired by a Libyan term for desert wind, symbolized a new beginning, a studio that would sweep through the animation world like a storm. And sweep it did. Studio Ghibli became a powerhouse, producing films that touched hearts around the globe. My Neighbor Totoro, 1988, was born from Miyazaki's guilt, overworking while his sons grew up. Princess Mononoke, 1997, was a $20 million gamble that became Japan's top-grossing film. And Spirited Away, 2001, won an Oscar, enchanting Western audiences with its tale of a girl who finds her strength in a bathhouse for spirits. And the latest, The Boy and the Heron, 2023, won him his second Oscar. Yet Miyazaki remained humble. "Awards are not the goal," he said. "I make films for the child who still believes in magic." His true reward? Seeing fans, young and old, weep at Totoro's kindness, cheer for Chihiro's courage, and leave theaters determined to protect the world he loved so deeply. But Miyazaki's process was anything but ordinary. He didn't write scripts, he storyboarded scenes as he dreamed them. Totoro began as a single sketch, a girl waiting in the rain with a fuzzy giant. "I don't know how the story will end," he often told his team, "but we'll figure it out together." Miyazaki's films feel alive because he poured his soul into every frame. He'd spend hours staring at sunlight dappling leaves or sketching a character's hair fluttering in the wind until it felt real. His rule? Animation must breathe. His themes were just as profound. He warned of ecological collapse in Nausicaa and Princess Mononoke, condemned war in The Wind Rises, and celebrated the resilience of children in Spirited Away and Kiki's Delivery Service. His characters weren't perfect. They stumbled, cried, and doubted, but that's what made them real. Miyazaki retired 6 times. After The Wind Rises, 2013, he vowed to garden and mentor young animators, but retirement bored him. At 72, he learned CGI for Boro the Caterpillar, a short he called pathetic. "Why keep fighting? I do it for the child who still lives inside me," he said. In 2017, he announced How Do You Live, renamed The Boy and the Heron, a film he called his final letter to the world. Crew members wept at screenings. For Miyazaki, it wasn't just a film, it was a message to future generations. Live fully, even in difficult times. Hayao Miyazaki taught us that animation isn't just for kids. It's a mirror for humanity's best and worst. His worlds are messy, magical, and achingly alive because he refused to look away from pain or stop believing in joy. As Totoro says, "Trees and people used to be friends. Maybe they can be again." Miyazaki's legacy isn't just in the films he made, but in the hearts he touched. He showed us that even in a world scarred by war and illness, there is always room for wonder, for hope, and for magic. And as long as we keep dreaming, his spirit will live on.